This is the 10th episode of the famous people and celebrities who passed away in 1971 in the United States. Before we proceed, please subscribe to our channel to support us. Chester Conklin, he was born in January 1886 and he died in October 1971. His age was 85 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was undisclosed. Chester Conklin was an American film comedian who started at Keystone Studios as one of the Mack Sennett's Keystone Cops, often paired with Max Swan. He appeared in a series of films with Mabel Normand and worked closely with Charlie Chaplin, both in silent and sound films, after seeing several Max Sennett comedies while in Venice, California during the 1913 winter break. The 27-year-old Conklin went to Keystone Studios, applied for a job, and was hired as a Keystone Cop with a salary of $3 a day. Sennett directed him in his first film, a comedy short titled Hubby's Job. In 1914, Conklin co-starred with Mabel Normand in a series of films: Mabel's Strange Predicament, Mabel's New Job, Mabel's Busy Day, and Mabel at the Wheel. In that same year, he appeared in Making a Living, in which Charlie Chaplin made his film debut. He would go on to make more than a dozen films with Charlie Chaplin while at Keystone, and the two became lifelong friends. Years later, Conklin would perform with Chaplin in two feature-length films, Modern Times in 1936 and in 1940's The Great Dictator. During this time, Chaplin kept Conklin on year-round salary. Leah Baird, she was born in June 1883 and she died in October 1971. Her age was 88 at the time of her death, and the reason for her death was undisclosed. Leah Baird was a silent film star and screenwriter, appearing in early Hollywood productions before transitioning to writing and producing. Baird was born in Champaign County, Illinois, on June 20, 1883, the daughter of William Frankenstein and Bertha Schreiber Frankenstein Rastan. She had two older sisters, Augusta and Mathilda. Both her parents were alcoholics, and her mother was one of the richest madames in central Illinois. An early star for Vitagraph Studios, Baird began her film career in 1910 in Jean and the Wave opposite Jean, the Vitagraph Dog. She played several leads in William F. Brady's troupe opposite Douglas Fairbanks. In the late 1910s, she played in 15 episodes of the serial Wolves of Kultur. Baird wrote and produced film during the 1920s. Baird later became a screenwriter and contributed to a number of Clara Bow features. She was married to producer Arthur F. Beck. Baird was under contract to Warner Brothers for 17 years when she appeared in character roles and as an extra. Billy Costello, he was born in February 1898 and he died in October 1971. His age was 73 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was heart attack. Billy Costello was an American actor and the original voice of Popeye the Sailor in animated cartoons. In addition to voice acting, he worked as a vaudeville performer under the name Red Pepper Sam. In the early 1930s, he also played drums with Fred Waring Orchestral. Costello had worked with Fleischer Studios as the voice of Gus the Gorilla on the Betty Boop radio show, and they felt that the raspy voice he had used for that character would work for a series of cartoons based Popeye, created by E.C. Seeger. They were planning. He was cast to provide the voice for the first Popeye cartoon in 1933's Popeye the Sailor. Costello then appeared in the next 24 Popeye shorts before he was fired by the Fleischers, allegedly over bad behavior. Although he never received on-screen credit, Costello knew of Popeye's international popularity and reputedly became difficult to work with, demanding more money and days off in the middle of a recording session. He was replaced by Jack Mercer, who was working in the studios. Costello's final appearance as Popeye was in You Gotta Be a Football Hero in 1935. Gene Vincent. He was born in February 1935 and he died in October 1971. His age was 36 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was ruptured ulcer, internal hemorrhage, and heart failure. Gene Vincent was an American rock and roll musician who pioneered the style of rockabilly. His 1956 top 10 hit with his backing band, the Blue Caps, Bebop Alula, is considered a significant early example of rockabilly. His chart career was brief, especially in his home country of the United States, where he notched 3 top 40 hits in 1956 and 1957 and never charted in the top 100 again. In the United Kingdom, he was a somewhat bigger star, racking up 8 top 10 hits from the 1956 to 1961. Vincent was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and the Rockabilly Hall of Fame. He is sometimes referred to by his somewhat unusual nickname, moniker, the Screaming Ant. Craddock planned a career in the Navy and in 1955 used his $612 re-enlistment bonus to buy a new Triumph motorcycle on July 4, 1955, while he was in Norfolk. His left leg was shattered in an auto crash. He refused to allow the leg to be amputated, and the leg was saved, but the injury left him with a limp and pain. He wore a steel sheath as a leg brace for the rest of his life. Most accounts relate the accident as the fault of a drunk driver who struck him. Richard H. Jackson. He was born in May 1866 and he died in October 1971. His age was 105 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was cardiac failure. Richard H. Jackson was a 4-star admiral in the United States Navy, originally cashiered from the Navy for poor grades. At the United States Naval Academy, he was commissioned and signed by Special Act of Congress for his heroism during the 1889 Apia cyclone. He served as Commander-in-Chief of the Battle Fleet in 1926 and lived to be 105 years old. Jackson graduated from the Academy in 1887 and was immediately sent to sea as a passed cadet, first aboard the protected cruiser Boston, then aboard the wooden-hulled screw steamer Trenton. In those days, Academy graduates were required to complete 2 years of satisfactory sea duty before being awarded an ensign commission. However, due to an 1882 statute limiting the numbers of available naval commissions, there were not enough vacancies in the service to retain all of the Academy's graduates. Jackson's poor grades placed him near the bottom of his graduating class, so he was to be cashiered from the Navy upon completing his sea duty. Dean Acheson. He was born in April 1893 and he died in October 1971. His age was 78 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was stroke. Dean Acheson was an American politician and lawyer. As the 51st United States Secretary of the State, he set the foreign policy of the Harry S. Truman administration from 1949 to 1953. He was also Truman's main foreign policy advisor from 1945 to 1947. During early years of the Cold War, Acheson helped design the Truman Doctrine and the Marshall Plan, as well as the North Atlantic Treaty Organization (NATO). He was in private law practice from July 1947 to December 1948. After 1949, Acheson came under political attack from Republicans led by Senator Joseph McCarthy over Truman's policy toward the People's Republic of China. As a private citizen in 1968, he counseled President Lyndon B. Johnson to negotiate for peace with North Vietnam. During the Cuban Missile Crisis of 1962, President John F. Kennedy called upon Acheson for advice, bringing him into the Executive Committee, a strategic advisory group He was elected a Fellow of American Academy of Arts and Sciences in 1955. At 6 p.m. on October 12, 1971, Edison died of a massive stroke at his farmhouse in Sandy Spring, Maryland. At the age of 78, his body was found slumped over his desk in his study. Thanks for watching the video. Please don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Have a nice day.